Welcome to Combat Zone with Ben the Bane Davis on Stadium.
Folks, welcome back to the Combat Zone. Ben the Bane Davis here, and we've got a lot to cover and dig into. A weird UFC Fight Night main event result between Erin Blanchfield and Maycee Barber. We've got Phil Davis issuing a lawsuit against the UFC. Phil Davis just on the Combat Zone. Didn't bother to talk about it. It's okay, Phil. And a couple other big topics from this weekend's event. But without further ado, let's get into it. So, Erin Blanchfield and Maycee Barber. This is a duel between two top five flyweights that I think we've been looking forward to for quite some time. They were booked to fight once before. That didn't happen. Barber pulled out, and now we've arrived once again. Unfortunately, same exact result. I'd say this time was worse, though. This was 2 minutes before the fight was supposed to happen. Erin Blanchfield had warmed up. She was ready to rumble. And then Hunter Campbell comes in and informs the team that Maycee's had a seizure and must pull out, which is terrible, right? I mean, you never want any serious health effects or issues impacting a fighter, right? That's really not what we're here for, and certainly not something that we're going to lambast someone about. Now, I do think it is important, though, to contextualize that Maycee Barber talked a ton of shit. Maycee Barber was really laying it on thick for Erin Blanchfield, saying she's boring, has a terrible style, all of these pretty cruel things to issue to Erin Blanchfield. And Erin's response, more often than not, was simply, I'm skeptical if she's going to show up. I don't know if Maycee will make it to the cage, right? Erin turns out to be correct, and all of Maycee's insults and taunts, I think, fall pretty fat. Little egg on the face, if you will. So Maycee Barber, fourth pullout in 4 years. Certainly not a great look. Erin Blanchfield, gonna be on the shelf for a bit of time. I will say, this is a very crazy thing that I haven't seen in my time watching the Ultimate Fighting Championship, right? A main event falling apart several minutes before. We've seen fights fall apart throughout the fight night. We've seen that happen many times, I would say. Someone in the back right there on the prelims, or second fight on the main card, they fell ill, can't walk. All right, let's continue. But the main event, the reason why we're here, the people on the poster, that one falling apart, haven't seen that. And I will say something similar to this, if I wanted to draw a reference for you guys. UFC 175, Stefan Struve became ill when he was warming up for Matt Mitrione, and that fight was canceled. Now, Dana White was incredibly kind in the post-fight press conference at 175, saying he's going to take care of both guys. He wants each guy to be happy and healthy, and that's the most important thing. Matt Mitrione, when informed of Stefan's illness, was initially very mad, but then went and comforted Stefan Struve, and kind of a very nice undertone to that story. It kind of seems like the UFC of old maybe had some better ways of handling this and approaching this, and just a healthier mindset towards a fighter pulling out because of illness than what we had today. I saw quite negativity on all timelines. But I will say, there was one quote from Erin Blanchfield before we move on that I want to expand upon a little deeper. It was when Erin Blanchfield saying that Maycee's unprofessional and that Maycee needs to fix every aspect of her life, right? That's kind of deep. I mean, that's kind of a deep dig that Erin Blanchfield is going off of. And I saw many people criticizing her. I saw many people saying, Erin, why would you say that? That's cruel. She just had a seizure. I will say, Maycee Barber showed up and did miss weight, botched the weight cut, and then had the seizure. So maybe in Erin's mind, it was because of this poor weight cut that led to that unfortunate seizure. Ergo, still unprofessional, all linked to the same. So maybe in Erin's mind, that's how it plays out. In my mind, I think she might have gone a little bit too far with the words. Erin, you could have just played a profesh, and moved on. She did get her show and win money, so it was a great night financially for Erin Blanchfield, but certainly a frustrating one professionally. And, when we think about what's kind of next in that division, right? Valentina Shevchenko just defended the belt against Manon Fiorot quite recently and was in attendance. She was sitting front row for this battle. between two top 5 flyweights. And of course, it didn't happen. So, it feels a little bit weird. Natalia Silva is obviously the number 1 contender. I think that might make the most sense. Maybe you do Natalia Silva and Erin Blanchfield, right? I guess. I'm not really too sure. This is a tough situation for all included. But one thing I think we know with the definite absolute is that Macy Barber, Erin Blanchfield, they're not going to be booked a third time. All right, let's get into some other news here. Veteran mixed martial arts fighter Phil Davis leads a lawsuit against the UFC. Now, we just had Phil on. In fact, we just tossed a question about fighter pay to him, and he did not mention an antitrust lawsuit that he was filing just last week. So if you've kept up, there was a firm that secured a $375 million settlement in a class action against the UFC for fighters that had competed from 2010 to 2017. This was about, I believe, predatory tactics, the monopoly that the UFC's created, and how it's eliminated other opportunities in the free market for fighters. Quite interesting that Phil is issuing this lawsuit, right? Especially with the same firm, Berger Tag. Looks like they're all kind of trying to come for what they want, right? All the fighters feel, hey, you know what? We kind of got gypped while we were fighting. Now we want all of that comeuppance, and $375 million issued out in one of those class actions. Who knows if many more will follow. It seems like they're confident. They're confident enough to issue a lawsuit. If you're going to issue a lawsuit, you're probably pretty confident, right? You don't just go willy-nilly issuing lawsuits against the UFC unless you're quite sure that you're going to get your hand raised in court. So we'll see what happens with that. Obviously, it's going to be a multi-year long ordeal. Again, that one that was filed in 2014, covering that 7-year stretch, just recently wrapped up. It was a decade plus in court, right? And so unsure if we'll get any speed on the Phil Davis class action. But if there is any updates, you know where to find it here on the Combat Zone. Now, a couple other tough issues I saw in the world of combat sports. Some bad, very sad news from Hawaii. Former UFC lightweight and welterweight champion is showing serious signs of mental degradation. BJ Penn is absolutely losing his mind. He was arrested 3 times this week for probably one of the more ridiculous reasons. So BJ has been vocal on his social media platforms saying that his family members have been captured and replaced with CIA operatives, right? And so this led to some stay away orders from his mother, which he just continuously violates, and some really extreme psychological abuse that he's been levying to not only his mother, but everybody in his family. And I just hate to see this play out for such a legend in the sport who achieved so much, who at one point in time was really highly regarded. And, the last couple of years have not been kind to BJ Penn. And I think that many fans have allowed the insanity, right? And that whole just ridiculousness of BJ Penn's descent to maybe overshadow and eclipse the seriousness of this nature, right? BJ is a threat to himself. He's a threat to those around him, and he is someone that's highly trained. I mean, this is like if an AK-47 gained sentience and then went crazy, right? like this is not an average guy. This is someone who held multiple championships multiple times. And unfortunately for BJ, right, he's someone who doesn't really believe in a lot of, I would say, pretty sane things, right? He's continuously shut down CTE. He doesn't believe in CTE, which is pretty interesting. He always talks about conspiracy theories. And now, again, most recently, endangering the lives of all those around him. So it's just a little bit sad. And when you think about, right, someone being arrested 3 times in 6 days, I have to start asking the question, what can we really do to fix this? What is the solution, right? Is it some sort of isolation? Is it live-in care? I guess the problem with live-in care would be, he's already attacking his mother and claiming that it's not his mother. So if you just put a nurse with him, I'm sure he would do the same exact thing. So it makes it very complicated. And I just hope that we address this and really buckle it down and find a solution that works for everybody, because, BJ, he needs help, and I'm really not sure if he's getting it. All right, today's episode, we've got some great stuff. We've got a interview with Dave Redneck Mundell, aiming for his fourth title defense this weekend against Donald Sanchez at BKFC 75. And we've also got a big preview of UFC 316. Stay tuned. Interview with Dave Mundell coming next here on Combat Zone. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Combat Zone. We've got the #1 pound-for-pound bare-knuckle fighter in the world and current BKFC Middleweight Champion who aims for his fourth title defense against Donald Sanchez this weekend at BKFC 75. It's the Redneck Dave Mundell. Dave, how are you?
I'm doing good, man.
I love it. Now, Donald rides a 4-fight win streak into this matchup. Is there anything special or significant about him, or is this another day, different body?
Um, I mean, at the end of the day, it's another day, different body. He's tough. I say this in all my podcasts, but that's not really a compliment. I just see him getting hit a lot and being able to take the abuse. So I know that I'll be in for a war as far as I'll be hitting him a lot, but I just don't see him being on the same level as me and being able to find me.
Yeah. Okay, I like it. The durability's there, but defensive instincts not. 50 pro MMA bouts for him, 6 prior BKFC appearances. When you watch the tape on him, offensively, is there anything where you're like, okay, keep that in mind, or is it really just a zombie walking forward?
He likes to try to use the off timing. I like to call it. Like he'll try to, like, so to speak, lull you to sleep and then jump in there. But as long as I stay focused on what I got going on, he's gonna run into one of these big punches.
I love it. Enemy territory, though, Dave. You're flying into Donald's backyard. How does this feel? I mean, it's not home for you.
You know, um, I guess it doesn't really matter to me. When I went over to Spain, it was kind of the same thing. I only had a handful of people there for me, but at the end of the day, the fans ain't gonna win in the fights. It's the time that I put into the gym and the level that I'm on that's gonna win me the fight. So.
If it makes you feel better, I felt that same way about Spain. Uh, Now, Donald's called you arrogant. He claims that he's going to humble you, Dave. What's the root of his issue with you? Because I've never viewed you as someone that's arrogant.
I feel like all these people, they got to make up anything they can to try to
Mm.
talk crap. I'm a very low key guy. I let my fighting do the talking for me, and so these guys, they say whatever they can to try to get amped about the fight. But I don't need to fight with any emotions. It's just a sport to me. I just go out there and I love to do it. So he also said something about like looping punches behind the ears and this worked for him or something. I don't know. It's kind of silly, but
He's reaching.
yeah, that's all they can do.
Have you ever interacted with him before? He's been in the promotion for some time, you as well. Has there ever been any overlap between you guys?
I mean, I've seen him a few times at some of the events,
Mhm.
but other than that, no, not really.
You've been with BKFC since BKF6 in 2019, quite some time now. How have you seen this company evolve the last couple of years? It's certainly scaled out
Yeah,
dramatically.
I mean it's taken off. It's the fastest growing combat sport out there right now, and I mean the product sells itself essentially. Everyone can relate to it. Back or for MMA, like I am a black belt in jiu-jitsu, so I like and I understand the grappling side of things, but people who don't know or understand that, they look at it as boring. They don't know what's going on. But BKFC, everybody knows what it feels like to get hit in the face, and so
Mhm.
it's just more exciting. The shorter rounds, it pushes the pace and it just makes everyone, go for the finish. People like that, so it's no wonder why it's growing so fast.
What was sort of the reaction from family and friends when you let them know, hey, I'm going to be transitioning to bare knuckle in 2019?
Everyone loved it. And I've always been a fighter growing up. I always got into my fair share of scraps coming up through high school and stuff like that. So it's just it was inevitable.
Fair. And listen, we'll talk about the arrest at 11 years old. We'll get to that. But before we do you ever see yourself going back into the mixed martial arts waters or maybe another glove boxing bout? Like you mentioned, you've got the BJJ black belt, you have all the skills. But is it just purely bare knuckle moving forward?
I mean, honestly, I don't see any other company taking as good care of me as the BKFC does, so I don't have any reason to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
If they wanted to set up some type of super fight or do something, and Dave Feldman himself was on board, I'd run it.
I love it, man. First section of our great chat with BKFC Middleweight Champion Dave Redneck Mundell. Can't wait for more. All of it up next on Combat Zone. Welcome back to the Combat Zone. Couple other big things that I want to get into with you today. So Jon Jones, obviously still in Thailand, having a lot of fun. Seemingly confirmed that a date is locked with Tom Aspinall. Says he can't say much, right? He's contractually restricted from really going off about the details, but says he and Tom have agreed and they're just waiting on the UFC to announce it, which is pretty interesting because I haven't heard that suggested from anybody but Jon Jones, right? He seems to be the only one that is saying that now, which is odd because just a week ago, he made some headlines saying that he doesn't know whether or not he'll continue fighting. He doesn't know what the future holds in that interview with Vic Blends. So I just don't think that Jon Jones is sticking to a consistent narrative, which leads me to say that, gang, until we get some real confirmation, I'm done talking about it. I'm done talking about him. I don't really want to keep bringing him up each week. If he does get locked in, I imagine to be November at Madison Square Garden, maybe UFC 322. That would make sense to me because it's seemingly what Jon has been wanting to do these last couple of years, the venue and time that he wants to fight at. But either way, until we get more confirmation, adios, Jon Jones. Magomed Ankalaev suggesting Alex Pereira is holding up rematch negotiations. So I believe Magomed tweeted out something that said, Alex is done. He's never coming back. Let's move on. June, July, August. I said yes. Again, Magomed Ankalaev, his Twitter is frequently managed by someone else on his team, his manager. And so that adds a real question of credibility, right? And with Alex Pereira, someone that has stepped in and saved the UFC on several occasions, UFC 303 last year, UFC 300 last year, kind of crazy for me to think that he would be the one holding up negotiations, or he would be the one that's staying on the shelf and going, I'm not sure. I need this. I need that. I need these provisions and these clauses. That doesn't really sound historically like Alex Pereira. So I don't know. And again, it's another thing where Magomed Ankalaev is saying this, but very few people are saying it as well. So I'm going to need some corroboration, but Magomed Ankalaev saying that Alex Pereira is done, retired, unsure, cryptic nature, who knows. Got to mention, Glory 100, you can't miss this, June 14th in the Netherlands. You've got Rico Verhoeven and Artem Vakatov. We will be speaking with Artem Vakatov. Can't wait to hear about his experience being one half that main event. You don't want to miss it. Go check him out. All right. Let's get into UFC 316. So the real question is, Merab Dvalishvili and Sean O'Malley. Can this second fight be different from their first? And I kind of don't think so, because Sean has not fought since he lost to Merab, right? He hasn't shown us, okay, I've improved in this area. I've reframed my style in this way to deal with the real threat that Merab presents, right? If you watch that first fight, it's just pressure from Merab putting Sean up against the fence and Sean second guessing when to pull the trigger. And I just don't think that all of that is going to change in a year and some months, right? That's difficult to believe that Sean will be a completely different fighter and that he'll have solved the problem that nobody else has really been able to. There's also questions about Sean O'Malley even earning this opportunity, right? His title reign was a great underdog upset of Aljamain Sterling, defended the belt against Chito Vera, and then lost it. So one title defense, not exactly the most spectacular one. But when you look at the rest of the division, there isn't really anyone else from Merab right now. Petr Yan does have wins over Song Yadong and Figueiredo, both top 10 bantamweights, right? Great bounce back streak for Petr Yan. But his loss to Merab was incredibly lopsided. Corey Sandhagen, winner of 4 in his last 5, all of them being top 10 bantamweights. But he did lose to Umar quite recently and fought May 3rd. So the timing of this just didn't work out. Maybe if he sits on the shelf, he could be next. But then if you just look down the line, Umar can't do that again. Song Yadong, nope. Figueiredo, nope. Chito, Rob Font, Cejudo, Mario Bautista, no. All those names do not work. And so Sean O'Malley, I think, is granted this because not only has the UFC invested so much in him, but by product of circumstance and timing, the opportunity has presented itself. So we'll see if he can capture it. Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison in the co-main event. I'm so excited for Kayla Harrison. I think that she is about to dominate Juliana Pena. I've seen her listed as a minus 700 favorite on some lines. So I think this will be a big night for Kayla. Juliana, in my opinion, is on 2-fight losing streak. I don't think that she won that belt against Raquel Pennington, and obviously she was dominated by Amanda Nunes in her second to most recent fight. And talking about Amanda, the Lioness versus Kayla Harrison, sign me up. Last one on 316. I gotta say, Kelvin Gastelum and Joe Pyfer. Kelvin Gastelum has danced with the best of the middleweights. Jared Cannonier, Robert Whitaker, Adesanya, going the distance with all of them. And while he's been hurt, while he's eaten a lot of blows, it's not like they've been knocking him out in the first round, which is where most of Joe Pyfer's wins have come from. So if Joe Pyfer can't create what historically has gotten him his hand raised, then I think he's going to get taught another lesson. I think that he's overlooking Kelvin Gastelum. He's calling Kelvin a layup. I think he's about to get laid out. Give me Kelvin Gastelum. We'll get into the parlay later. I don't want to jump to the betting right now, but I think Kelvin is being heavily overlooked. And Patchy Mix. Let's see what Patchy Mix can do on UFC 316. Big debut. Justice for Jose Aldo. I can't wait for it. All right, we got some more highlights coming at you from the world of combat sports. Stay tuned here on Combat Zone. Some of the greatest highlights in the world of combat sports here on Combat Zone. More to come. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a minute. More of our chat with BKFC Middleweight Champion Dave Redneck Mundell. Looking for his fourth title defense this weekend against Donald Sanchez at BKFC 75. Let's take it back to the champ. I'm curious now, there's been so many highlights and big moments, right? Main events in BKFC, but I kind of want to ask, 2020, you had that night against Hector Lombard. How do you reflect on that fight? What sort of went wrong upon looking back on it?
All right. Well, in the very first round, the very first exchange, I broke my left hand, so I wasn't able to throw any straight. So I was fighting him the rest of the time with just one hand. So I did what I thought was enough to win just by controlling the pace, controlling the fight, not letting him get in, not letting him slug it out with me. And I mean, as you can see, I obviously frustrated him. He had to headbutt me. He had to try to hit me after the round, all this other stuff. And I honestly thought I won the fight. But losing it maybe was a good thing because it showed me or taught me, what they wanted to see in BKFC. They wanted to see the more aggression. They want to see, a little bit more of a brawl type fight. So it allowed me to, put my effort that way for training and just kind of push for that.
Open up a new level for sure.
Yeah.
Now, there's been so much back and forth with Mike Perry, right? Verbally, and you love going at him. I'm curious, when you fought him back in 2016, that was when both of you guys were much younger in your careers. How did that matchup come about?
We fought twice, so which one are you talking about?
Was the 2016 one the rematch, or was that the second fight?
So the rematch, I don't remember exact dates. But the rematch, obviously, from the first one, both times he got saved by the belt. I dropped him in both. The first one, I dropped him twice. The second one, I only dropped him at the end of the round. But it's one of those things. Like, I hate watching somebody who he's so garbage, but he was so tough. He is tough. He takes a beating. He's one of those guys who's very durable. And again, I've grown since, and I don't think he has. So I would love to run that one back. But the rematch, it just came about just from being two of the biggest hometown people. We both were undefeated at the time, so it just made the most sense. And just like kind of now at BKFC, we're two of the biggest names in the BKFC right now. Obviously, I want to fight him. The only reason why he wouldn't want to fight me is because he knows he'll lose. So, I mean, I'm just waiting for it to get set up.
Has there been conversation behind the scenes about actually getting this matchup together? Because it seems
Absolutely.
like Perry seems like MIA almost at the moment.
So I've been told a couple times he was going to be my next opponent, and then when I fought over there in Spain, talking to Connor, he was all about it, and he loved the idea. And hopefully, with him behind me, I can make the numbers happen, and it can come through. I would just love the chance to show everybody that he did.
He did. I remember there was one video where he's saying you were the one shooting for takedowns. That feels like a mischaracterization of your guys' fights, I think, right?
Yeah, but they go right back to it. Even if I was, I'm pretty. I mean, I did take him down in the fight, and that's ultimately what did my own self in. But BKFC, I can't do that. We're gonna sit there and we're gonna slug it out. And I'm so much better than he is, so much more smooth. He won't be able to hit me, and I'll keep touching him over and over again. I know he's durable, but I'll just paint a picture on his face, man. I'll slice them all up. So, yeah, I think, and then he'll probably be one of the ones that have to quit too.
What did you make of his fight with Jake Paul? Did you watch that one?
I called that from the beginning, man. Everyone thinks like Perry can box, which is I don't understand why. He wins in the fights in BKFC because of how tough he is, and he's able to dish back a little bit of punishment because he throws a lot of arm punches and he's strong. But boxing, when you got those gloves on, those arm punches don't do anything. You got to be able to, sit down on punches, shift your body the right way, and there's a lot more technique. And he doesn't have that, as everyone's seen. That's why he got beat up by Jake Paul. Granted, I do think Jake can box a little bit, but he is still brand new, So if you watch, like, there's a few times things that Jake did that you could sit there and pick apart his technique as well. But I mean, he's way better than Mike is.
Hey, maybe after Donald Sanchez, it's time for Mike Perry. All right, let's take it to that arrest at 11 years old. You got into a fight, a kid threw a French fry at you, and you went and showed him the business. What was your family's reaction after that? Did the parents get called? I mean, this had to have been a pretty
Yeah, my
big
mom was
explosion.
mortified, you know. I was in trouble for quite a while, but I just, as a kid, and the way I've always been is I don't take shit from anybody. I don't cause no problems. I don't bother nobody. I don't ever
Mm.
start anything, but I'm also not gonna sit there and let you like trash me either. So that was just like the start of stuff, and it's crazy to me being 11 years old and like it's like my daughter. She's 11 now. I couldn't imagine somebody needing to arrest her for anything.
Yeah.
Like she's a kid. Like what I don't understand what that shows. Like you just try to scare the other kids. Like it was stupid, but it was funny.
That was, I mean, it did seem excessive, right? You got handcuffed in the lunchroom. Is that what it was?
No, I think it was in the
Or,
classroom at the time because obviously everything had went down. Like that's the thing is like there was no
mm.
teachers around or anything. It happened. It was over. I only hit him one time, and then we all went our separate ways. Everything was done, and then of course after that, that's when they come walking in and pull me out of the room. But whatever.
He ratted. He ratted on it. He couldn't.
Of
There's no
course.
honor. I'm curious. Did that start? That prompt you to start training? What was sort of the inciting moment where you went, okay, I'm gonna get into combat sports now?
I guess I mean it was halfway through the wrestling season of my senior year. I know there was some heavier weight classes opened up that they didn't have any wrestlers for, and the coaches there were like, "You should come try it out." I had played football and stuff like that, so I went in there, and I mean I was just a natural at it, so I just kind of everything stemmed from that.
I love it. I love it. A couple random questions I wanted to toss at you. How did you meet your boxing coach, Jihad? I believe. Where did that meeting come from?
So I used to train with another guy. I think his name was Tim, and I faced a kid named Cam Taylor, and that's when I met Trey. Trey was in Cam's corner, and when we fought, I won that fight too, but like he had did some stuff and just like kind of threw off my game plan and listening to the corner instruction over there, I was like, I want to go see what this guy has, you know. So I went to go train with him. Even though I won the fight, I went to go
Yeah.
train with him. Like I want to see like what they know. And that's when I met Trey. And Trey or Martin Brown, as you guys know him, he also fought in the BKFC.
Mm.
He kind of like took me under his wing and we worked together and Jihad was his coach. So
Okay.
eventually Trey's like, you know what, you need to see this guy, brought Jihad in, and then ever since then, like we just took off.
I love that you beat him up and you're like, now let me come train. Let me come get all these tricks that you have. Also, talked about Team Goon, man. Bill Goon feels like he's been a part of your journey for many years. Where did this begin and how has he impacted your life?
uh, um, Same thing. Back when I trained with that dude named Tim, we had met at the gym. He was so our I guess training facility was inside of like a weightlifting gym. So he was lifting weights and stuff, and I was training. He would see me. We would just shoot here and there. He'd come out to the fights, and now it's like he's my brother. So it just stemmed from that, and you know, that's my
I
ride or
love it.
die.
It's a hell of a name, man. Bill Goon. All right, couple random matchups, right? I saw you post a poster with Donald Cerrone in BKFC, wanting that matchup, Cowboy versus Cowboy. I love it. But what other dream matchups are there for you in bare knuckle?
I mean, right now I'm really just focused on that Perry fight, man. I want it, you know. Outside of that, I don't really care who they brought in. Anybody. I don't have any particular names. I don't even really watch, you know, UFC or BKFC unless I'm at one of the events. I just whoever they put in front of me, I've always just accepted. So, any of the big name people that's going to bring me the recognition and ultimately the money that I deserve, you know, I'm ready for it.
There you go. If dollars make sense. Has there ever been thoughts of going up, trying to get that double champ status? I know Josh
Oh
Dyer is
yeah.
currently the champion in the weight class above. Is that maybe
Uh,
potentially?
so originally, back before I fought Riki for the belt at 175, I wanted to go up to 185. The only reason why I didn't because we got Captain Deadpool, who's one of my teammates, and he fights at 85. So I would cut the weight and I'd stay down, and then he went out and took the belt, and now things it was, went through the people's hands a little bit. I would have no problem going back up to 185 and trying to take it there. My understanding, BKFC doesn't want double champs anymore. So if that's the case, and I had to relinquish the 175 to go up to 85, I would go that route. I have no problem doing that. Or if they want me to stay down here at 75 and they're gonna bring some people in for me to fight, again, anybody, anytime,
Yeah.
anywhere.
Whatever makes sense. Okay, last two questions. Part-time electrician, I believe. Talk to me about the balance between fighting and then filling the rest of the time, and how you got into that trade.
Full-time electrician. It's me
Full
and my
time.
stepdad, or it's my stepdad's company, right? And obviously, I was younger, needed a job. He took me on board. I've always done side jobs with him, so that it just that helped me pay for fighting because in the beginning we don't make no money. But it was tough, man. I'd wake up super early. I'd have to cook all my meals for the whole day because I'd be out of the house all day long. I go to work. Right after work, go straight to go see my personal trainer. Right from there, I'd go straight to boxing. And then I wouldn't be getting home to super late. And I mean, it was just hard, over and over again. But everything up until like maybe like a month and a half ago when I finally quit is I've accomplished everything I've had with that job. Uh, it was tough, but I can't wait to see what not having to work does for me.
Did you ever foresee yourself getting to this point? Because so many fighters have that same, right, complete grind, and they don't get those dreams fulfilled. Now you're in that position where it is becoming a reality. Describe that feeling to me.
I mean, it's great, man. It was a little scary because I took a leap of faith. I got to get another fight in by the end of the year, otherwise I'm gonna have to go back to work. But it's something that I've worked my ass off for, and I decided it was just finally time. I have to do it.
Absolutely love it. Last one, man. I believe your nephew's on the autism spectrum. Talk about how that empowers you and about how important it is to raise awareness for autism.
A lot of people, I mean, even for autistic kids and just regular everyday people don't understand what other people are going through. So it's just, to me, it's just important because I don't like seeing people get aggravated with them or trying to rush them to do something or picking on them because they think they're different, whatever it is. So it's just an all around thing. Like, I just don't like bullying in general. So it's just important to bring that up and get people to understand and realize what they have going on. So there's no need to cause no pain to them, no frustration. Like, let them do their thing, and they're awesome.
Yeah. World could be a lot better with just a little bit more empathy, right?
Yeah.
I love it. Well, the number one pound for pound bare knuckle fighter aiming for his fourth middleweight title defense against Donald Sanchez this weekend at BKFC 75. Dave Redneck Mundell, thank you for the time, sir, and best of luck. I'm sure we'll chat soon.
Appreciate it, brother.
Massive thank you to the BKFC Middleweight Champion, Dave Mundell. Best of luck to him this weekend against Donald Sanchez. Still more to come. We've got the penny parlay for UFC 316 here on Combat Zone. Up next, stay tuned. Folks, welcome back to the Combat Zone. Couple interesting things here to get into of the betting variety, which I know you love. So the past cash for UFC Fight Night, Blanchfield versus Barber, which I guess is now UFC Fight Night, Mateusz Gamrot versus Ludwig Klein, is as follows, right? If you put Gamrot by decision, Jordan Levitt by sub, and Jacoby by TKO, it wasn't the craziest of lines, but $100 would have paid out $583. Talking about big payouts, the penny parlay for UFC 316. So I went through the card, and it's a lot of heavy favorites. So I know that that's not going to get many bettors excited, but it does still come out to plus 8,000 odds. It is this: Josh Van, Waldo Cortez Acosta, Kayla Harrison, Patchy Mix, Kelvin Gastelum, plus 310 to get the upset. Kevin Holland, Drew Sang Yu, Quillan Salkield, Kong Wang, and Marab by decision. So plus 8,000 odds, $10 will get you $802. So if you're going to be betting, make sure you do it on Bally's Sportsbook. All right, still to come, some more on Combat Zone. Stay tuned. Some fights, it's your night, but sometimes it's not. Shout out to all fighters featured in that. And shout out to you guys. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Combat Zone. Make sure you tune in to next week's same time, 9 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. We'll recap all the UFC 316 shenanigans and anything else that occurs in between. I appreciate you guys. I've been the Bane Davis. I'll see you in the next one.